it's Jo Carter here. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. Can't believe I'm actually on time with this February wrap-up. I'm probably going to edit it right after I film this, which is the 1st of March 2020, and then get it uploaded and a go-go. I'm really proud of myself that I've been able to continue with BookTube. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm having a good time. I'm not picking on myself when I'm editing videos, so go me. Know if you're feeling the same, you can definitely overcome that. But now let's get into the purpose of this video. I read 3 books in February and DNF'd 1. The first book I read was Down to the Wire, which is a part of the Thoroughbred series created by Joanna Campbell. This volume was written by Mary Newhall Anderson, and it's number 38. I rated this book 3 stars, and I don't really have a lot to say about this. It wasn't anything spectacular, and it actually felt like a repeat of one of the earlier books in the series. The basic premise is that there is a girl called Christina who has raised a horse from a baby, and now that it is time for it to race, she's the only one that can race it. She is only 16 and doesn't have her jockey license, which means she can't actually ride it in any races at all. A lot of shenanigans happen in her ending up getting her jockey license and being able to race the horse and ultimately winning, but it just felt like such a repeat of one of the first books in the series, and not in a good way. It didn't improve on the storyline. The main reason I enjoyed this was just for nostalgia kicks and the enjoyment of being around people that are crazy about horses. So I don't really have a lot more to say on this. Just that it's another volume that I wouldn't find super spectacular in the series. Then the next book I attempted to finish was Elantris by Sanderson. I picked this one up for the Tome Topper Readathon, which is hosted by Sam at Thoughts on Tomes. I'll leave a link to her announcement video below for you to check it out. But it's a readathon dedicated to reading big books, and unfortunately I only got 50% of the way into this before deciding to DNF it. I posted on Sam's announcement video that I was going to be reading Elantris, and I was really excited because I'd heard that Sanderson was really great, and I got a couple of comments on it from people. One person had said that she'd heard almost exclusively that I should pick something else to start with because this wasn't one of Sanderson's best books, but a couple of other people said that it was really enjoyable, go for it. I don't really take a lot of stocks in people's recommendations. I do a bit, but I'm also knowing that I'll have my own opinions and thoughts, and just because somebody likes it doesn't mean I will, or just because someone hates it doesn't mean that I will. I picked this one up with no reservations. I was quite interested to see how this would go because I think the premise of Elantris is really interesting, and the idea of surviving in a city where people don't really survive much in is something that really interests me as well. I really like survival stories and apocalyptic seeming stories, but this one I just don't think I could connect to the character. I ran out of memory again. I have to remember, because I'm filming this on my iPhone, I have to remember to delete my recently deleted. Just because I've deleted something doesn't mean that it's going to free up storage. I don't think I connected with the characters. I really enjoyed the premises, and I think that the characters themselves were interesting, but I just couldn't connect. I was a token interested, and it was actually quite hard for me to DNF this book. I think there was 3 separate occasions where I thought, I'm going to DNF this, before I finally did on the 3rd time. And potentially after I've read some more Sanderson's, and if I've loved them, then I might pick this book up again. I might get more interested in his storytelling and the way he writes things, but just for the moment I was just slugging through it, and I was feeling a bit bored, and I just wasn't getting anywhere with it, so I decided to DNF it. I'm sad too, because I think that it could be interesting, and maybe if my TBR was smaller when my TBR is smaller one day, I might pick it up and I might read it, and then I don't know, but and it seems like everybody sort of says that the first half is boring, and when you get to the halfway mark it becomes fantastic and awesome, but I was at the halfway mark and I don't know, maybe, but I just kept thinking, you know, another 10 pages, another 50 pages, maybe it'll be fantastic, and it just wasn't, and I just don't want to live my reading life that way, so I gave it up. The next book I finished was an audiobook, so I'll see if I can put an image up here if I'm that technologically advanced. It was the 3rd book in the Confessions of Georgia Nicholason by Louise Rennison, with another hilarious title of Knocked Out by My Nunga-Nungas. I love listening to these on audiobooks. They're actually narrated by the author, who has not a young girl's voice, but now she is absolutely the voice of Georgia in my head. I had to get used to it at first, but after, I don't know, 20 minutes or 10 minutes in the first audiobook that I listened to, I absolutely loved it. She narrates it so funny. I imagine that's how she hears it in her head. So I actually gave this book 3 stars, but it was a solid 3 stars. There wasn't a lot of substance to it at all, but the subconscious message was flashing me in the face, and it was basically, this is why young girls shouldn't date older boys. Georgia's 14 and her boyfriend Robbie is 18. Even though 4 years isn't such a big difference, at that time in your life where she's still got a lot of school to go through and he's pretty much starting his adult life, you could really see the differences. And the plot didn't have a lot to it. Georgia was on suspension from school for a bit, and then they went on a family holiday, and then when they came back, she still didn't really see all of her friends a lot because they were all dating boys that were closer to her age. And of course, like, her boyfriend wasn't hanging out with them. He always had something else to do, and also their relationship is supposed to be secret because smart 18-year-old boy knows that he's not supposed to be dating someone who's 14. Even though it was a filler book, it was still really interesting, and I definitely really got the subconscious message, and I'm hoping that's what Louise is conveying to us in the rest of the books. And I'm really interested to see how the rest of the series goes, and whether George actually ends up realising herself that it's not fun to date someone who is in a whole nother world than what you are. He's going, and we all, like, most of us have done it before. I tried to date someone who was vastly older than me, which was really silly, but at the time it feels important, and perhaps this is a really approachable way to do it to kids, to try and tell them and communicate with them that it's not good, because I had people trying to tell me. I did not want to listen at all. I was like, I'm happy. Luckily, I came out of that situation no worse for wear. I learnt a few things, but I wasn't going to listen. So maybe this series has helped a lot of girls realise that even though that boy may be yummy and smart and cool and fun, and, you know, it feels great for you to have bagged someone who's that old, it doesn't necessarily equal a good relationship or a relationship on even footing. And as my older sister always has mentioned when we've talked about this before with other people, she always wonders why a guy that age can't get girls his age. Is there something wrong with him? Why is he going out with someone younger? So it can be such a deluded fantasy, and I think it was just it was the subcontext in the book, even though not a lot was actually happening. Georgia was not doing a lot because she couldn't, because she was dating this guy that was so much older than her. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the volume. And the last book I read in February is Altogether Dead by Charlaine Harris, which is book 7 in the Southern Vampire Mysteries, also known as the Sookie Stackhouse books, also known as the True Blood novels. I was a bit nervous and excited going into this series again. The last time I read one was years and years and years ago. I think I would have been mid to early teens when I was reading this series. I'd say probably more like mid-teens, but I remember having vastly different reading tastes back then. So even, like, I'm 25 now, and if I was reading this when I was like 15 or something, it's been 10 years nearly, probably a bit less than that. But I have vastly different reading tastes than I did back then. Back then I used to be able to read a lot more sort of not trashier, but how does it, Sam says it really good. She calls them alpha male douchebag books, Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. That's probably the best way to describe what I used to read and what I used to be okay with reading, and I didn't really notice that anything was okay with it. So I was really nervous going back into this series. I was excited because I remember I've always loved Sookie's books, and I just gel with Charlaine's writing style really well. I've always said that she can make me enjoy watching or reading Sookie washing dishes. Something as simple as that, and I'm still interested in it. So I was excited, but I was also nervous that I was going to feel that it was trivial or not as interesting anymore because I've moved on to heavier plots, I guess. But I still really enjoyed this. The actual plot of the story, so it's about Sookie is contracted to go to a vampire summit because she can read minds, and one of the vampire queens wants her to be there to read the minds of all the other human escorts of all the other vampires and supernaturals there. And this plot I didn't really care much about. There's like a murder that happens and then a couple of terrorist activities. find it as interesting as the romance. The romance features heavily in these books, and I absolutely love who Suki is with in this book. I'm not going to say who she's with because that'll be a spoiler, but I love them. Absolutely. I hope Suki stays with them. My heart was like breaking like midway through because of something that happens, but I just like, I love him. I love him so much. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of the series, hoping that they're still together in them. So, I don't know, I don't have much else to say aside from fangirl gushing over who Suki is within these books, and I'm really looking forward to reading them. And it was really gratifying to be reading a series because, so my reading challenge last year was to read all the books that I purchased in 2014 and 2015 on my shelf. And doing that, I found there was a lot of series that I'd started and I didn't actually enjoy anymore because my reading taste had matured and changed. And it was sort of downheartening to just think that these books that I used to really enjoy, I don't anymore. So it was really gratifying and positive to have actually continued a series and found it really, really interesting still. Hey, it's Editing Joe here, who forgot to mention that I did have one complaint with the Suki Sackhouse book. My complaint was that Suki is a little bit judgmental sometimes. She slurs in her head about certain women. Not very often, there was only 3 instances in the book, but she calls women derogatory names because of the way they dress or who they choose to sleep with or the number of men they choose to sleep with, and I didn't think that was very nice of her at all, because a woman's worth is not based on how many people she sleeps with or what she wears. She does correct herself in one of these instances where she's basing it on what the woman's wearing. I sort of understand why she's upset about the woman that was sleeping with a bunch of people, because that woman is supposed to be marrying her brother. So I do kind of understand that, but I didn't really like the way that she was saying it in her head. I don't know, but I guess who was calm in that situation when your brother is being cheated on? And there was another weird instance as well where there was a vampire whose name was Jodie, and Suki thought that was hilarious in not a very nice way, and I don't really know why. So just a few little oddities there that I don't know whether that was supposed to make her seem a bit small town, but it's like, why? Why is it needed? And I hope it's not present in any future novels. Those are the 3 books that I read and the 1 book that I DNF'd in February. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye!